So for now, I would like to introduce our next keynote speaker, the CIO of ServiceNow for 8 years running. His role spans digital strategy, customer experience, analytics and AI, cyber, product vision, service operations, and customer advocacy. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Chris Bedi.
Better late than never, as they say. So again, it's a privilege and honor to be here at DAFITC 2023, and thanks for having me. So my title, Chief Digital, oh, I forgot my clicker now. I'm all like out of kilter. So let me try this. Okay. My title, Chief Digital Information Officer. So my title used to be CIO. Why did I add the digital? I think it's a lot of things the Undersecretary was talking about, a lot of things Mrs. Goodwine was talking about, which is as technologists, we are driving so much change. We have to embrace AI. We have to embrace automation. We have to make it easier for people for things to get done. And we have to own the transformation agenda at our collective organizations. I know I work for private sector, you all in the Air Force and DAF, but the challenges are very, very similar. And ServiceNow, if you don't know ServiceNow, we are a platform company based out of the West Coast. And simply put, and there's a very, very long marketing explanation, I'll save you that. This platform was built to automate any kind of work and make it easier for the average human to get things done. And we do a lot of work in the private sector, but one of the things I'm most proud of is the work that we do in the public sector with all the federal agencies. I'm really proud to be a part of this and really proud in the way that we're serving not only IT operations, but HR operations as well as mission operations. So thank you again for being here. I'm going to talk about the power of intelligent platforms. And I think platforms are really the unlock to accelerating digital transformation as we know it today. And I'm going to talk about 3 specific, I'll use the Silicon Valley term, hacks that can help us accelerate. And that's along the lines of experience, speed, and AI. But I'm going to get to those in a second. First, I want to talk about platforms and why do I think platforms are so important. And let me start with platforms that we all use in our daily lives. Platforms to drive digital transformation across the enterprise. And you can see from this visual, digital transformation is hard. It's hard because there's so many siloed apps. It's hard because each mission and each department has their own agenda. It's hard because getting everybody aligned to do something in a common way gets very, very difficult. But platforms help with that. And platforms, if we put all these capabilities in one spot, we can help accelerate things. But it does require thinking and doing things differently than we have traditionally done them. So let me start maybe on the personal side. Platforms we've all probably used. I think the slides are a little bit ahead of me. Sorry. Okay, either way. So let me talk about the 3 vectors. The 3 vectors are experiences, speed, and AI. And I'm going to deep dive into each one of those and how I think that they can apply to accelerate digital transformation. But on the platform side, I was talking about platforms in our consumer lives and why they matter. Let me talk about a few platforms that we all know and some of which we have already in our pockets. The iPhone. Think about the iPhone. It has messaging capabilities, it has GPS capabilities, that it's all these apps built in one. And the more apps that we put on it, the more powerful this platform gets. But not all platforms are technology driven. I think the US highway system is a great example of a platform with interconnected ins and outs and standards that we all use and leverage. And let me unpack a technology platform that we've all probably used in our daily lives, and that's YouTube. So if you think about YouTube, if you were to take a non-platform based approach, you would probably have one app to capture video content. You would have another app to enable meta tagging and search on that content. You'd have another app, which would be a website on which one would search videos, and I could go on and on and on and on. But because they've put this all in one platform, because they've put all these capabilities in one spot, they're able to capture our attention. And they created a whole economy in and of itself. So in our consumer lives, we consume platforms all the time. And we probably don't even think about it because of how intuitive they are to us. But what does that mean inside the enterprise? And I thought a bit about what are the critical attributes of a platform that we need inside the enterprise. And I think about 4 or 5 key things. One is omni-channel experiences. How do we have a platform where you can have chatbots and mobile and web all in once, really deliver frictionless experiences to the person that lets them consume information in the manner in which they want. It has to integrate with different parts of the ecosystem. None of us are starting from scratch. There's a lot of systems that have been implemented, a lot of applications out there, and any platform of relevance in the enterprise has to interoperate with other parts of the ecosystem. The third, I would say, is AI. Generative AI has caught the imagination of, I'll say, the public at large, but all of you technologists know AI has been around for a long time. Whether you call it machine learning, whether you call it RPA, supervised, unsupervised learning, generative AI is the latest. Any platform of consequence has to have AI built into it. And then I think about scale. As you think about your scale, I think it was 700,000 airmen was what the undersecretary said. Platforms have to scale to meet all of your needs. And then automation. Automation does not come in one form. You need integration automation, you need workflow automation, you need document processing, all kinds of automation. And if they're all present across a number of different siloed areas, it gets really hard to build that one experience. So the point is they're all additive and they all build on top of each other. There's one element in the lower part of this that I didn't touch on, which I think is super important, especially given your mission, which is security. And again, any platform of consequence, and I think the undersecretary, as she was talking about AI and models, we have to make sure any industry solution that you use has the right guardrails around the data and right data protection. So this is the way that I think about a platform of consequence that can accelerate digital transformation. But the tech alone isn't enough. It's a large part of it, but it's not enough. So let's dive into those 3 areas that I talked about around experiences, speed, and AI. Experiences. So when I first started talking about experiences, it felt really soft and fuzzy to me. And it was like, experiences, who cares if the screens look good, right? Let's make sure the capabilities are there. Let's make sure we automate. But as I thought about it more, it was experiences really matter because the right experience can actually change human behavior and get to the right behavioral outcome that we're looking for. Let me give you a quick example from my shop. So we're a software company. We want our engineers to file patents. And this is a story from a few years ago. And when I looked at the engineers weren't filing patents. When I looked at the process for engineers to file patents, it was one of those where it was fill out this form in triplicate, then hand it off to a department, and then do it all over again, maybe 4 or 5 times later, at the end of which, if you make it through all the way through that gauntlet as an engineer, if you have the patience for it, then we'll look at your patent application. So nobody was doing it, obviously. So we reimagined that process and made it mobile first, made it easy to do, all that kind of stuff. And when we did that, the percentage of patent applications in our organization in 6 months went up by 46%. And that was my aha moment, saying the right experience can absolutely change our behavior. And we experience this, again, all the time in our consumer lives, right? Whether it's Netflix or Amazon or Uber or whatever, they made things so easy that we want to do them and reduce the friction out of it. And when I think about in the enterprise, I don't think there's anybody here who would say, we've made it easy enough with the experience. And so I think about this concept of multimodal experiences, where a couple attributes of it. Yes, we need web. Yes, we need mobile. Yes, we need chatbots and all the other forms in which people are going to consume technology. But there's a couple keys. One is they have to be continuous, where you can start in one experience and continue in the other without having to redo everything. And it could be true of moving from portal to mobile, and it could be true from moving from an experience centered around one department to another department. The second, I would say, attribute of this is it has to change the flow of work. Most of the times when people need to get something done, they have to search through their inbox, maybe go into application 1, find a piece of information, go to application number 2, put some more information in, get a report out of application 2, then go to application 3. The whole idea being the right experience reverses the flow of work. How can we push information to the human as opposed to the human having to find work? And then the last thing I'll say around experience is proactive, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. So if we know we have to create the right experiences, and if we know that one of the biggest barriers to technology adoption is the user experience, and the right experience, by the way, no one ever needed a training manual, right? If the experience is so intuitive, then what's the barrier? I think one of the barriers is actually getting people on the same page, because there are very few processes, I would say, that only span one department. So how do you get people aligned on making it easier? And one of the hacks that I came up with I learned through a lot of calories burned is around this metric of self-service. So when I think about self-service, what does it mean? So work. I need to get something done. I'm usually requesting that of another department. That department needs to maybe consult the third department and get back to me. Self-service would imply that when I need to get something done, the rest of the stuff just happens without another human involved. And it's a pretty simple metric, but if you think about this concept of self-service, it can apply across staff, it can apply for multiple departments, it can apply to one department, it can apply to one process. So how much are we improving the self-service of that individual process, department, set of departments, or whole organization? And I would say, as people look at self-service and improving it, there's a couple things that I've learned, which is it's almost impossible to improve that self-service metric without simplifying the process, without automating a number of the manual steps. And the third, which I think is really, really important, relooking at policy. So I'll share a real example, another real example of mine, which was we have travel and expense cards at ServiceNow. And we said, well, why can't that be self-service? Someone needs a new travel card, maybe they lost it or whatever, and go to a chatbot and get that done. So we built a chatbot conversation. I still remember I was getting a demo of it, and there was one of our junior engineers, pretty nervous, giving me a demo. And we walked through the first couple steps in the process. Do you need a new card? Yes. What's the reason? There was a bunch of reason codes. And then we got a couple steps down, and it said, and the way that they built the chatbot conversation was, what credit limit would you like? And they built a pretty cool UI. It was $5,000 to $50,000. And I got irritated. Leadership lesson. I shouldn't have got irritated at a younger engineer, but I did. And I said, why the heck would you ask the person what credit limit? Why wouldn't you just, don't we know that? Like, don't we have a policy around it? And he said, we don't use the word sir in private enterprise, but he said, Chris, I just coded what was in the policy. So in ServiceNow's policy document was, we asked the person what credit limit they would like. So you find out all kinds of, I'll be careful with my words, interesting things about your own policies when you digitize them. And so, again, those three things, if you're improving self-service, one, it's an easy metric that can apply across departments. So you get people on a common language, but you have to automate, you have to simplify, you have to re-examine processes. And we have seen that most people who benchmark it typically start in the 16 or so percent, but then very, very quickly, they're moving to 50+%. And I think 3 to 4 years ago, this was probably really, really hard. It is absolutely attainable now. I think the biggest constraint is actually between our own ears, meaning the changing our thinking. Why can't we? We have all this information resident in all the applications. How do we bring that to life to serve the person better so machines and platforms are executing work on behalf of the human? So if self-service is today, I would say where we're headed to is actually proactive service. And let me take a very easy example of somebody needs a new laptop. I'll call it the old way, self-service and proactive service. The old way, somebody's laptop is broken, they're under duress, they call a number or they fill out a form, hey, I need a new laptop, and hopefully 2 weeks later they get a new laptop. That would be reactive service. Self-service, I think very attainable today, is you go to a chatbot, I need a new laptop, it automatically checks in the background. Are you eligible for a new laptop? How long have you had yours? Here's a model we support. Here's the most secure version, et cetera, et cetera. And everything, the fulfillment behind is automated and you get your new laptop. But I think that's probably was good enough for yesterday, but probably not good enough for where we're headed, which is why can't the platform say, hey, the median life of a laptop is 28 months, and around the 26-month mark, the chatbot is going to wake up on your laptop or mobile phone and say, hey, I think you should get a new laptop. Is now a good time? Maybe you're on the road and you say, no, check back in a week. But this is where things are going. And as you digitize DAF, which is, I know, a very, very tall order, think about all of your efforts. Think about how you're leveraging technology to be proactive for the human and not just reactive. But this was a lot of slides and a lot of theory about experience and self-service and chatbots and continuous and this and that. Let's actually look at it in action. So we are going to do a live demo. We debated it, live demos. Sometimes things go really, really wrong. We'll see what happens. We had the mic incident. Hopefully all the bad juju's out of the way. So with that, let me welcome on stage Shawnee to drive a real live demo of what this looks like.
Y'all can hear me, right? All right, awesome. Thing number one, complete. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of jump right into today. As Chris said, we wanna talk about that engagement layer and that experience that you initially have when you're experiencing ServiceNow. So as you can see here, this is really the engagement layer that we've created for our airmen. This portal is configurable to your organization. And when we think about our end users, we think about that single pane of glass that they're going to be able to have to manage all their work needs on the platform. As you can see, I am logged in as myself, and that's because ServiceNow is a role-based system. So anything and everything I see right now is going to be because I'm authorized to do so. But more importantly, ServiceNow is really thinking about how those different experiences impact certain end users. For instance, when we think about our millennial workforce, having a conversation with a chatbot can be so powerful for them. So today, we're going to be talking about our virtual agent. Our virtual agent is an AI capability on the Now platform, which allows for automated conversations to drive decision-making, perform common work tasks, and really just manage information for that end user. So I'm going to click into this, and let me just go a little bit bigger for you all to see our virtual agent. Now I'm going to set the scene. Let's say that I am an airman working in a warehouse on Maxwell Air Force Base, and this will be pretty important in August, okay? And my AC unit is not working. So I'm just going to let the virtual agent know it's really hot in my office. And even though I didn't really tell the virtual agent, my AC unit is having issues, she is still able to deduce using natural language understanding that I'm having HVAC issues. More importantly, we can also see that she realizes where I'm located, and that's because my profile is storing that information in the platform. So she recognizes I'm in the medical logistics warehouse. So I'll let her know, yes, that's exactly where I'm located. And more importantly, she's going to recognize there are 4 different AC units located in this warehouse. So which AC unit am I talking about? So I'll go ahead and let her know I'm in the main office, and that is the AC unit having issues. She does something interesting here, and that's because when we think about Tier 0 ticket deflection, we want to have that capability built in to our virtual agent. And that's because we don't want folks submitting tickets unnecessarily. If they can find that information in the knowledge base or, within the portal itself, then there's no need to submit a ticket. However, obviously, I've done some troubleshooting. There are no exterior doors open. So I'm going to let the virtual agent know, yes, all of the exterior doors are closed. Next up, the virtual agent does an API call directly to my thermostat. She's going to make a determination on what the temperature actually is in my environment. Now we can see here, she recognizes, wow, it's 81 degrees. That is hot. And she's going to look into my preventative maintenance tickets that were also worked and stored on the platform and see that they're all up to date. So then from there, she's going to use that same REST API call to go ahead and reboot that thermostat for me to see if we can get it working. Now, once again, she asked for another troubleshooting mechanism. Go ahead and, see if you feel any cool air coming from those vents. I'm going to let her know, nope, it's just not happening. It's really hot in here. And up next, she's going to recognize, hey, we really do have an issue. So let's go ahead and get a technician out to you. Now, I'm not going to schedule the first available time slot. It is August in Alabama. I'm going to get this scheduled as soon as I can. So we're going to go ahead and schedule that first available time slot with the virtual agent. And one of the last things I'll say about what she does is she opens that ticket on my behalf, but more importantly, she scheduled it in the next 2 hours. And she's also making sure that proximity and skill set of my technician that's coming out to meet me is actually going to be able to perform the work that I need. So, as Chris mentioned, this is just one of the capabilities that we have with AI today and how we're currently using AI on the ServiceNow platform. Back to you, Chris.
That was awesome. Super well done. And I think that really highlights the power of experiences, how easy it is to engage with that. All you're saying is, I'm hot. And the machine and the platform instantly understands that. And also what I liked, and I don't know if I liked it, but brought back a memory. The chatbot kind of just said, hey, did you close the windows? It reminds me of my parents at home. It's hot in here. Well, close the windows. The AC works better. And I think this is just a small example of how easy and intuitive and how we can remove the friction from the everyday processes we all experience in the enterprise. So there's a couple items, and I'll just build this slide out, that there's research been done on experience and how to make it better. And a couple things pop out to me. I mean, the book is about this thick, but one is nail the bookends. So if any process, and the research has shown, if you can make the beginning of that process and the end of that process a lot better, people will have a favorable impression of it. And the funny part is the person actually did research on root canals, of all things, and said, if I can make the beginning of a root canal and the end of a root canal better, people think it's a great root canal. I've never heard the term great root canal, but there you go. That's what this research scientist did. So nailing the bookends of the process, really important. The second is there's a lot of moments along the process where there's potential friction, and it doesn't all get fixed overnight. But again, the research has shown if you can fix the worst moments, the lowest of the low, the thing that people actually hate the most, they'll remember that versus taking a lot of medium moments and making them great. And a lot of times in our roles, fixing things and improving things, the hardest thing is often where to start. What do I do first, second, and third? So again, think about those worst moments in the process, which are probably the hardest ones to fix too. But if you can improve those, again, that's going to create a very different impression on the humans interacting with that. And the third is around, again, the research has shown setting expectations. So even if you have a process where somebody thinks it should take 3 days, but your process is, I don't know, 8 days. If you can tell them up front, hey, this is going to take you 8 days, and you can show them a trail along the way about how far they are into the process, again, the research has shown people are far more accepting of it. And I think the one company that comes to mind that did this really, really well is Uber, right? Even if your Uber is 20, 25 minutes away, the fact that you can see that little car and the second by second progress of where it is, you're just a little bit more patient. Okay, it's on its way. I can see that. It just took a right turn. It was probably stuck at a light. So again, applying a lot of these concepts into the enterprise to make lives easier for, in my case, all my employees, in your case, the airmen, I just thought that would be useful. These were very useful for me as we started to practice these. Okay, so that's experience. I'm going to pivot now to speed. Speed, I believe, is a competitive advantage. No matter what process it's in, getting something done faster is always better. And I live in a private sector, sort of boring corporate world. You all have mission operations where speed really, really matters. And I think the vehicle to drive speed is automation. You automate a lot of waste, you automate a lot of manual steps, the speed increases. And I often think about it as, how can I increase the clock speed of ServiceNow? And again, the vehicle there being automation. And the first question comes to mind is, what should we automate? And like most organizations, the process typically looks like a monthly operations review, a quarterly operations review, some sort of after action review where people are looking at data and saying, that's not quite what we need it to be. How do we fix it? Then there's a study that happens for 3 to 4 months where people go analyze the process. They come up with a set of findings. Those findings have to get dispositioned and remediated. Task team to go do it. I'm running out of breath even talking about it. And maybe 9 months down the line, something improves. But I think we have the opportunity collectively to change the game on that. And that is through something called process mining. And process mining, if you think about it, we all have that pretty Visio chart, or maybe we do, maybe we don't, of how the process should work. What process mining does is it analyzes your systems and reverse engineers, well, here's how the process is actually working. And these 30% of transactions took, 5 times as long as the other, 70%. And I think it has a few, and this is, again, my own data about how I ran it. And those insights on the right of this chart, I don't think if I asked my HR department, they ever would have told me those insights. Not because they don't want to, but it probably would have followed the standard playbook of, let me analyze it, let me map it, let me do this, that, and the other. But I think there's a couple implications of this. One, it becomes unthinkable to ask a human, where are the inefficiencies in this process? Where are the bottlenecks? The platform's going to figure it out faster than any human. The second is, and I'm going to date myself here, I grew up with the old adage of never automate a bad process. I actually think that goes away. Because now I believe automate the heck out of any bad process that you have. Because the machine will help us figure out how to optimize it faster again than any human. And then the third I would say is there's new roles. We are used to trying to figure out what we need to go improve and deliver in code and do all these things. I think that's changed where there's new roles in the organizations where people need to say, okay, what is the platform telling me I should do? It's a little bit discomforting for me too, which is platforms telling humans what to do as opposed to the other way around. But the insights are there. And so I think the future is every process in any organization is underpinned by process mining. The future is that we are in an always-on innovation re-engineering cycle. Re-engineering is not something you do every 6 to 9 months. It happens every day, every minute, every hour. And it would be, again, I find it hard to believe we wouldn't have this running for literally everything over time. Now that time may vary by organization, but I absolutely believe this is an unlock to accelerating digital transformation and automation. And if you think about the average enterprise today, Lots of different siloed systems, lots of different siloed experiences. Someone says they need something, someone has to log that request in the system, maybe log into another system because they use a different app. Somebody in the end of the day approves it, it goes over to, let's say in this case, the IT system, then acquisition has to get it done. I'm not picking on acquisition, it was just the example we picked. And then from a governance standpoint, someone has to log it. That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of breaks and silos in the information. That's a lot of friction, a lot of calories burned to get something done, which could be as easy as what Shawnee just showed. Why can't a chatbot do all of it? Why can't a chatbot navigate all those systems? And the funny thing about legacy systems is, I feel like legacy is a bad word. They're there for a reason. They do valuable work. And everybody likes to sort of bash on the legacy systems. I feel like until somebody says, let's take it away. And it's like, no. This thing does so many useful things. So they're there for a reason. But the whole idea is we have to get to a new paradigm. And that new paradigm is an integrated experience across all of these legacy systems. That paradigm is digital workflows, which serve as an experience and automation layer on top. And automation comes in a variety of forms. There, as I mentioned before, there's RPA automation, process mining I talked about, integration automation, workflow automation. And you don't have the luxury of picking the legacy, you're managing the legacy. So if a legacy platform requires RPA, you need that. But the power of having all these automation capabilities in one platform means you don't have to swivel chair between applications to get something done. And you can actually combine these depending on the use case, depending on the workload, depending on the outcome that you're trying to drive. And I think that's a pretty powerful paradigm. Now, automating typically required scripting and coding and pro code. And then the industry came out with low code. And low code has its place. It made things easier for people to get stuff done. But for the really complex and hairy stuff, it still requires code. But I do think even that's about to change. So generative AI, maybe you've all played with ChatGPT, maybe you haven't, but applying that to a coding concept. Can we actually use that, right, where we can tell platforms to code themselves? And rather than me talking about it more, let's invite our star of the show, Shawnee, to show us how it operates in real life.
All right, I'm back. So as we talked about before, right, we showed you all what we're currently doing with AI capabilities presently on our platform, but what's coming? What are we about to roll out with now? AI capabilities are changing all the time. So, ServiceNow is a low-code, no-code platform, but there are opportunities to utilize pro-code. And as Chris said, we're making that even easier for our citizen developers to do that today. As you all can see, I am in a dashboard view, and this is allowing us to see some real-time reporting information. We can also see I have the ability right from here to create a new business rule. Now, business rules are simple instructions created to allow business logic to be put into play and enforced on our platform. Keep in mind, business rules, while they are excellent and they are something on ServiceNow that we use, really any system that you're using business rules to enforce that logic. So let's go ahead and create a business rule right from here. So when I drill into this business rule, we see I have the ability to name it. I can tie a certain table in the back end to it. I can also make a determination on when do I run this rule and what are the conditions around that rule that I'm adding. And then we can also recognize, hey, what action do I want this business rule to take? And while there are many, many actions that ServiceNow allows you to perform, the more actions that you add to a business rule, the higher likelihood it is that you're going to need to code. Now, coding for me is not something that sounds very exciting. I'm not a professional coder. I'm a citizen developer like you. But as Chris mentioned, how are we making it easier for our citizen developers to do just that? Have script available to them at their fingertips. So when I type something simple here, like search all incidents created last month, and I go ahead and press Control Enter, using generative AI, it's going to go out into the ServiceNow platform and find all of those different incidents for me. But not only that, it's also going to go ahead and create that code for me, or that script, so I no longer have to do it. So we can see here, it's already gone ahead and taken that glide record or that incident table and pulled it in for me. I also created conditions, right? I created a condition around this. I said, I need the incidents from last month, and we can also see that right here in our script as well. So by using generative AI on the ServiceNow platform, we're able to create code from literally the human language. Take that, ChatGPT.
Nice.
Back to you, Chris.
And by the way, this is not future, this is here and now. My team uses this all the time. But I think about, again, accelerating the pace of change. How quick was that? And it works for even like really complex things as well. So if you can, if a developer can, if an analyst can simply express what they want the machine to do, the machine will now code it. So think about that for a second. Think about project timelines. Think about how much time is spent writing requirements docs and things like that. Maybe there's a shortcut. Let me just tell the machine and let me look at the output. Again, the cycles of innovation dramatically shortening, and the ability to try stuff out and experiment and see what it would look like without the elongated cycles of development, I think is huge for our industry. Lastly, I'm going to talk very quickly about AI. It's obviously caught the attention of the industry with generative AI, machine learning, et cetera. Let me just make sure I click that. And why does AI matter? I'm going to unpack that for a second. I think three things. If you think about a process which is automated with AI, I use the term infinite scalability. Why is that? Because if you can do it once and it's automated once, the cost of adding 1 million more of those types of transactions is minimal marginal cost, near zero. So if you think about that for a second, that allows scale without cost, right? So the automating with AI gives you the opportunity to scale things almost infinitely. The second thing is, in any organization, could be an organization as big as DAF, could be a smaller one like ours. As the organization size increases, the number of departments increase, the number of people increases, processes increase, checkpoints increase, all that kind of stuff. But most organizations, that would mean things slow down. And we've seen that prove out in private and public sector. But with AI, these platforms actually get smarter with scale. They can do things faster and faster. Which again is a game changer. So with scale, speed increases. It reminds me of a fintech organization. They're actually in business where their requirement was 2 minutes to fill out a loan application, but the loan approval is 1 second. Literally 1 second, because of all the AI training data they have on all of us. That's a different topic around data privacy, but I'm not going to get into that. And then the third part I'd say about AI is interconnected systems. As these AI systems can connect to different other parts of AI systems, the innovation loop, the learning loop just starts to increase. So I think AI is very, very powerful. I would say we're very much in the early innings of this. And I'll contrast it. I know where I live, we're good about coming up with very buzzwordy technology, but I'll contrast it a little bit with things like the metaverse and blockchain, where I felt like those were technologies in search of a use case. Generative AI and AI feels like the exact opposite, because the use cases are actually jumping off the page. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take the two things I talked about. One is around experience and one is around speed. What does an AI-driven experience mean? Let me talk about natural language understanding. Again, think about a form that's being developed in any corner of your organization. Maybe there's 12 fields on it, maybe 13, because we have to capture this field for routing, this field for categorization, whatever. Why can't it be one field? And natural language understanding takes care of the rest. The technology is there. Think about most of the reports we have are about, let me find out if anything bad happened in an ops review. Why can't platforms tell you in advance that, hey, something bad might happen? My machine learning algorithm thinks that these things probably aren't going to finish on time, and you really want them to finish on time. Generative AI search to help us make use of the vast amount of information that we have in our enterprises that are like trapped in different content stores and knowledge bases, and people, get frustrated trying to find their information. What if you could just ask a question in very natural language and get a very human-like answer? RPA, different automation technologies. So AI-driven experiences, I think we have to lean into it. We have the opportunity to really help people interact with technology in a very, very different way. And then speed and automation. How do we get AI-driven speed inside the enterprise? So I talked about process mining as a game changer, but I also think about things like automation discovery, where platforms are finding out what it can go automate. And there's a simple hack that I came up with, which is, because often teams struggle with, well, where should I apply machine learning, supervised or unsupervised? If any process has a rating, ranking, or recommendation, it's a candidate for machine learning. Anything which has a rating, ranking, or recommendation, it could be you're prioritizing something. It could be you're putting a risk rating on something. It could be you're routing something. All of those are very, very simple machine learning algorithms. I shouldn't say simple. They're simplified if they're all in one platform, and the same platform has AI and automation, has experiences all in one. So on AI, I think we're in early innings. It's up to us to embrace it. The platforms have the capabilities now for us to leverage them. I think it's on us to figure out how we apply these, when we apply these, and get rid of a lot of the old constraints. And I really do think there's an opportunity with AI to leapfrog. I showed that progression from reactive to self-service to proactive. Skip that whole step in the middle of self-service. You can go from reactive all the way to proactive, leveraging AI. So my takeaways from this, one, I think platforms are a force multiplier, especially platforms which have experience baked in, which have automation baked in, which have integration baked in, which has security and scale built in. It means you can leverage all those capabilities no matter what the use case, and you don't have to innovate on all of those things at once. The second, speed creates advantage. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but the vehicle to creating more speed is automation. And we have to automate more and more and more. And the platforms can actually tell us where and how to automate. And then the last one I'm going to say is we have to think AI first. It's very tempting to say, well, I'm going to do it the regular way, then I'll think about that AI thing after. I would encourage you all to think about it in the opposite order. How do I leverage AI first? Because maybe you don't need to do any of the traditional steps that you've done before. So that's a bit of my point of view. Hopefully, notwithstanding the mic at the beginning, you enjoyed that, including the live demos. Thank you for your time, and I think I'm going to take some questions now. Appreciate it.
Mr. Bedi, in this new age of generative AI, please expand on, do you have any predictions on what could change?
Any predictions on what will change with generative AI? I think in the very short term, the biggest one I see is the calories that we all burn on coding new applications and digitizing new things. The ability for code to get automatically generated means that we can accelerate digital transformation. I also think that in the short term, we will start to see generative AI, I'll just say, unlock all the value trapped in this various content repositories that we all have. Could be knowledge base articles, could be just a content store on SharePoint or something like that. But generative AI allows us humans to now ask it natural questions and for it to evolve. And if I had to say a third area is, I think the user experience UIs, user interfaces as we know it, are going to dramatically change, where generative AI are just going to be inserted at various points. And I'll give you a quick example. And I'll pick maybe a very routine example of an IT issue. Let's an IT issue starts with me. It moves to my friend Steve Walters. Then it moves to Tim. Tim gets it. He might have to review 5 pages of notes to get up to speed with what's gone on with this incident. Instead, what if Tim could just say, hey, Gen AI, could you summarize what's happened in this ticket for the last 2 weeks? And it summarizes it for him. And then he can get on with actually helping the person out. So those 3 things, I would say coding, content, and the UIs as we know it are going to change. But I would say anybody who knows exactly what's going to change with Gen AI probably has a little bit too big of an opinion of themselves. That's, it's being honest, sorry. But that's my view for the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months.
Thank you, sir. This will be our last question. So if the platform already knows it's 81F in the warehouse, why not skip using the airman as the problem sensor?
So that's a great question, and it's almost like you were having the conversation with me and Shawnee as we were getting ready for this presentation. So I think that's a perfect example of going from self-service to proactive service. And I think it's a journey that the private sector and public sector is on. The tech is there, because you could very easily in that demo say, hey, it already knew it was 81, it kind of remotely rebooted it. So if it knew that, why didn't it try to remotely reboot it automatically? So I think it's a great call out, and it's just part of the journey that we're all on, which does require different thinking. The tech is there in the platforms, but I appreciate the call out.
Thank you. Give me your mic. How about that? I'll take your mic. Thank you. Thank you, Chris Bedi. On behalf of our airmen and guardians here, I want to give you a token of our appreciation from the Office of the CIOs. Thank you. And it's within ethics, don't worry.
Okay.
But thank you for the insights. As the chosen platform for our Wave 1 provider, we look forward to the insights, and you've definitely piqued our interest on how we can maximize the use of our platform. So thank you. Another round of applause, please.
It's an honor to be here.
I guess.